And here's what the starting board looks like, and it's very different, and it's always going to be different. You can't possibly get the starting conditions in the base game out of playing Spice Harvest, which has always kind of disturbed me a little bit there. I've refrained from putting starred Fatican tokens in, and actually I probably shouldn't have even committed in the danger that I would have to, because I don't think that's right to put those in. The elites should not start the game on the board, but it doesn't actually say anything about that in Spice Harvest, but you're not allowed to use them at the beginning of the game in Dune. So what do we have here? Well, we have the Freeman Heavy in Carthage, and over then with a few troops in Siege Tabar where they had to fight. We have the Atreides sitting in both Arakeen and Habana Ridge Siege. They had a little fight in Arakeen, I think, if I recall correctly. And then the Emperor alone in Tuk Siege. That's all we set up with. It doesn't terribly change the reality of the game to have all this. Here's the biggie though. Look at all this spice. That's like 30-something spice. Now, in addition to that, the Freemen are going to get their 10 starting spice. This is the kind of situation that I saw in the only opposed game I played of the combination of all three. And you know what? The Bene Gesserit made a prediction that the Freemen would win on turn 2. I'm debating whether it should be turn 1 or turn 2 right now. But the Bene Gesserit prediction is definitely going to favor the Freemen. They have a chance of winning this all alone. Obviously, if they make any kind of alliance, they're going to win. We'll see. All right. Well, I'll load this up, and then we'll start the Dune game, and people are going to be shocked to see it starting in this position, probably. But, hey, that's their loss if they didn't watch this part. All right. Second round for the management meeting or whatever, and the Freemen draw a 10. That's not a very good draw. But this is the kind of draw that you can maybe get people to vote no on and be correct. So what he's doing is he's declaring the 10. And we've got 10 bucks that I'm handing out, and I'm going to hand out a 0 over to the guild. That'll probably get the guild to say, oh no. I mean, that will definitely get a no vote for the guild, right? Because they have nothing to lose. Other players might be convinced into this, both because I was dishonest last time, and they're not getting too much this time. We're looking at 2s. 2s are going to be kind of unhappy. If I can get 3 no votes, that's 4 more bucks that I can grab. I'll get a 7 buck bonus. I still don't want to pay the guild money. Getting an extra card doesn't help the manager if he's going to be legitimate. And my feeling is that guild advantage just sucks. Paying yourself to draw, paying someone to get a second card, it randomizes the situation more, makes it harder to predict what card they have, but in the end it comes down to, are you lying or are you not, and do they trust you or do they not? And I don't feel having 2 cards does a really good job of getting people to vote yes on things that maybe aren't so good. We'll see. It does. Having 2 cards means if you do cheat, you can cheat bigger. But if you get caught, it hurts more, right? To me, it's just kind of a... I'm very reticent to use that ability, so that's a very weak ability from my standpoint. These other cards I want to hand out, well... Oh, I have to give the Emperor a buck. I forgot him. I'm going to give a 2 to the Emperor. See, I don't know if him getting 2 cards was particularly good. He didn't get one terribly cheap. So I'm going to give a short shift to the Atreides, because they get to see their card in someone else's and are more likely to vote no. In fact, one thing you might want to do is hand the entire thing out to one person. Nah. Because that person will vote yes, and then you don't get any bonus. So yeah, you kind of want to distribute it, because if a no vote people who get a good pile of money are willing to accept your graft, right? They're probably not going to get more if you're lying. So you do want to distribute it fairly equally. All right. And now I'll figure out voting and we'll see where that goes. Well, the Freeman player didn't get away with telling the truth, as it were. Only the guild voted against him. Everybody else kind of thought he was telling the truth. And he was. There was some question over here, but nothing. The guild couldn't. Basically, one of the things was, hey, guild, if you want, put your money where your mouth is. Give us each $1 and maybe we'll vote no. He's like, that doesn't appear to be legal, though. So when I looked that up, I decided, well, if you can't give money to convince people to sway their vote, it's kind of rough to... you might want to house rule that in. It's kind of an interesting option, which is he's been given a 0. He may come out ahead if the pot's split up. But I can see where that might have been a hard call to make anyway. What if it's telling the truth, which he was? Well, then the Freemen get a lot of extra money, and the people who vote no don't. So it was kind of a rough situation. He couldn't get anybody to agree. And you actually want to limit the number of people who agree to vote no. That's one of the other problems. If you vote no, you want to make sure you have the absolute minimum that you can, unless you're getting somebody who has too much money for allocated to them, in which case they would be getting it from the pool. A lot of little interesting thoughts in there. Anyway, deal out the cards. So I'll come back and announce kind of what the price the average card went for. Well, the Atreides opened up every bid that they saw at 5. That worked pretty well. They managed to buy, I think, 2 cards. They had a pile of money, including a siege. And they saw the siege, that was the first card, and then they got bonus with the 7 card. This forced everyone else to go to 6. The problem is the guild and the Harkonnen didn't have that much, so they're knocked out of the bidding. The Emperor ended up buying a couple of cards. He had a decent amount of money. I don't think he got anything too good. And the Freemen, our managers, bought a card. Bene Gesserit were trying to hold out for a 5 price, but they just decided, oh, we're not going to get it. We can only buy 1 card. They took the last card for 6. No one else could afford that except, well, no, the Atreides couldn't either. So we move on. Once again, the Freemen were unable to take advantage of telling the truth. Another 10 bid, and that normally would cause some, you know, when low bids going out causes some suspicion, but the truth is you're in this really hard position, and it's really got to be almost a personal, you look at the person and try to figure out, are they lying? It's a psychological game more than any kind of, you don't have much information to help you. And basically nobody was convinced that he was trying to say. It would be tough. One of the things is, hey, we just had a 10. What's the likelihood that he would try to pass that number as his lie, right? Wouldn't a 12 be more reasonable, or even an 8? But on the other hand, you at least know that there are 10 cards, right? If you weren't paying attention to the distribution at all. Other people might say, wait, there is no 9. I know these numbers somewhat. So at least you've seen the card, which is helpful. That's kind of reminds me of a game, another total bluffing game, Ripley's Believe It or Not, which is one of the coolest trivia games because you get to bluff about whether or not you've really got an answer to something. Which is kind of cool. Basically, somebody can call bullshit on your question. All right, well, we'll deal out the new cards, see what comes. And a scarcity of spice drives the prices down. The guild got in a bidding war with the Atreides. They opened up at 5. The guild went to 6. Atreides goes to 7, I think. Or maybe it was 4, 5, 6. Anyway, the guild paid every buck they had, outbidding everyone else at the table, essentially, or equaling them. But I think they outbid everyone to get a card that the Atreides definitely wanted, that they had looked at. Then the cards kind of went for 5 or 6, and then the money drained. And they started going down in the 3 range. The very last card the Freeman got was worth 3. So there you kind of have there is this natural progression. Initially, you're flush with cash. It seems like the price point's a little higher. Later, cards start beginning to fall at lower levels. So like the Bene Gesserit who bought one for $5, then the price went down another one. You know, I mean, the prices that you originally saw can no longer be matched by the players. Of course, if a good harvest comes in, good money comes in. Nobody's really hoarding money, though, here. And now, as money gets less, the Emperor's ability becomes more and more powerful because he's getting an extra buck each turn. Of course, that could be reflected in his shares, where he won't get as much share. That's one of the problems in this game, is whoever the manager is has an equalizing duty, sort of. Hey, you've got a number of access cards and a lot of money. On the other hand, they also have a manipulate the bidding possibilities. I don't want to give anybody too much money because then they'll control the bidding. But on the other hand, if I can get that pile of money, then things are different. So I want to be the person with lots and lots of money, obviously. But you want to make sure that even if people are doing well on the board, that you're not starving them so much that you're making other people more competitive in the bidding, because you want to make sure you get your access cards. And finally, honesty pays off. A 15 card. Now, 15 is not a bad card. Claiming that is often very safe. But we saw the 25 come up. That's one of the big ones. The 45 is the huge one. There's 30s. For whatever reason, the Guild, the Harkonnen, and the Bene Gesserit said, you know, I just don't believe it this time. I don't believe it. Even though they got decent shares of it, they said no. And the 15 was what was handed out, 7, 10, 15. But basically, they believed he handed out 15. They just didn't believe what his card was that he got here. And so they're not going to get any money. The Freemen are going to get a pile of money from this. They're going to get 7, 10, plus 3 for the manager's fee, 13 bucks. That puts them in a very powerful position this early, which means other people are probably going to try to prevent the Freemen from taking too much advantage from the big windfall that they get. This is the problem with being manager. You can walk away with a hoard of money. Pretty much every card went for only 3 bucks this time. The Emperor grabbed one that he didn't really want. Atreides was holding 5 bucks. He could bid 2 on each card, and for basically how the balance worked out because of the amount of money the Freeman had, the Atreides was going to get 1 card, his choice at 3 bucks, and the Freeman was going to get every other card at 3 bucks. If the Atreides wanted to bid more, that's great. But the Freeman was willing to let the Atreides get 1 card. And now, of course, that big money advantage is gone. But the Freemen are sitting on a big bonus. So now, they don't really have to lie. If they get a big card, they will. Simply because they'll be handing out so much money to everyone else. But even if they do, even if they tell the truth on a big card, it doesn't hurt them too much. There's only 1 more round left. Let's say the 45 comes out and they split that. Oh, what do we have? What, like 9 bucks each? Something like that? Wow. Still, all that means is the Fremen aren't getting a card. Everyone else is going to split up the deal. They would rather get a card, so they might lie on those cases. I'm pretty sure they would. But they're not going to give up the big bonus. Now, here's the problem. If they do lie on a big card, and lots of, you know, the big money split among, say, 3 people, basically, then they're in worse position, but still not as bad a position as everyone else in a sense, because they've got so many cards in their hand. So everybody's in kind of, everybody's feeling pretty hosed by the Fremens getting voted against there. But a big lie can get you a pile of money too. Alright, on to that final round. And on that final round, the Freemen get one of the luckier cards that they can get. A low card, an 8. 5 is the lowest. There's a couple of 5s in the deck. But, you know, we haven't seen anything like this. Everybody voted against. They got nothing. I mean, he can tell the truth perfectly, but he's handing out 2s and 1s to everyone, and they're just saying, I'll get a card out of this. And everybody else is going to get one. Now, granted, if it's, you know, the 30, it may not be too different But there's just this total distrust at this point because of his success on sleazing a true card and then coming back with something so low. The distribution said it wasn't unlikely. Really, it comes down to a crapshoot, right? Because it could be a big card that he's lying on, in which case we all actually get a pile of money and basically one card each. None of this is going to carry over. This is the last round. You don't get to keep this spice. So it really comes down to, with everybody voting against, is he lying or is he telling the truth? And it's just 50-50, and it almost is invariably going to be that in this kind of case, where he's ahead. You're just making a guess on him, and it's not really helping you either way. It's just, we're trying to hurt him. And how do we do that best? Well, here he's going to get 11 bucks, and that should be enough to get a good number of these cards. Some people have no money. And this time the Freeman managed to take 4 of the 6 cards. Everybody else who had money had $2. The Atreides managed to grab one, the Harkonnen the other. That was pretty much guaranteed by the money that was set out because position. The Emperor's $2 couldn't be used. He would never get a bid in. Atreides or Harkonnen could bid 2 before he can. Oh well. Now we come to the distribution, and there's some trading before that. So people who don't have a place to put troops can try to negotiate for one. Well, the Freeman's hold was so high that nobody wants to trade with them. But the Guild and the Emperor had a trade potential. What they had was the Emperor is holding an extra city. He's got 2 Took sieges that he wants to go into. He's safe going into them. There's only 2 of each location card. Carthag's more important, but he doesn't have a lot of troops. So he wanted to trade Carthage away, and the Guild has no location and a fair amount of troops. The Guild decided that they were not willing to pay 7. The Emperor doesn't want 3. They weren't willing to compromise at 5. Essentially, the Guild said, look, I'll just hold my stuff. You know, I'll probably have to fight for Carthage anyway. It's probably out. And that is the truth. All right, so everybody assigned their stuff. And we'll flip those over. So the Freemen have 13 in Carthage, and good thing he didn't go there. 7 in Siege to Bar, and a ton of spice left over, which is going to put them in a dominating position in this game. And we can guess who the Bene Gesserit is going to guess on. Arrakeen for treaties and Habana Ridge Siege. They were able to get 2. The Guild is just going to take spice. The Harkonnen went to Arrakeen as well. Now they have 4 in Arrakeen. The Atreides have 11. That means the Atreides are only going to get 7 troops here, and Harkonnen are wiped out. Now, if you played this, if you kind of looked at this as the beginning of the book, in a sense, you might almost say, well, no, because the Atreides are coming back in. The Atreides did indeed win Arrakeen against the Harkonnen, but the Harkonnen managed to keep some stuff in Carthage. That would be sort of how to get to the setup following the story of the book. The rest of it, it's harder to, you know, there's not as much detail or anything. Siege to Bar here with 5. 2x Siege with 3. So, this Carthage card was worthless to them. They were unable to get it exchanged, and that's a pain in the ass. That's one thing. Money cards, troop cards, are always worth it. Location cards, it's tough to get a deal on them. Alright, well, I'll figure out what the setup is and put the pieces there, and then we'll see what we end up with.